was unexpected today, but there has been some speculation for some time that Nicola Sturgeon would step back from the role at some point during this parliamentary term to make way for a successor, well ahead of the next elections to come. So yes, surprised about it being today, and seemingly quite sudden, but not really surprised that it's come at some stage in this cycle.
Okay, and she's been in the role for 8 years, and obviously, you know, before that served as Deputy First Minister under Alex Salmond. So she's quite a long political history at the top. Just sum up for us what you feel her legacy will be, and what the highs and lows of her time at the top would be in your view.
Her legacy is one of being very successful electorally. She has ensured that her party, the Scottish National Party, is undisputably the dominant party in Scottish politics, not just in the Scottish Parliament, but in every election that it has contested of recent years. It has dominated electoral politics. She has presided over what could have been, I suppose, a difficult time for the party following the 2014 referendum, where essentially the party's raison d'etre, its central objective of independence, was defeated in that referendum. And yet following that, and when she became leader, the party expanded hugely in terms of members, but also in terms of its electoral success, that continued and increased. A little bit of a setback in 2017, but then bounced back thereafter as well. So she leaves her party in a very strong position electorally for her successor to take forward. And as First Minister, the first female First Minister, the longest serving First Minister, and against a backdrop where the stability in office in Scotland has contrasted with quite significant instability in office in Downing Street. And so she has seen different prime ministers in that role and had to build those relationships. So she's gained an awful lot of experience in the role too. Policy record, it's fair to say, is probably more mixed in that some of the things that she set out to achieve have proven more difficult. Now, partly that will be because of COVID, and COVID making everything more difficult, crowding out all other issues and creating an economy and the challenges of that make it difficult perhaps to achieve some of those other ambitions. But there will be judgments on policy development more broadly, no doubt, as well. But yeah, so it's certainly a legacy of success electorally, of positive record more or less in government, some successes and some things that are less successful. And I suppose one of the other things to note is that while she is effectively the leader of a devolved government, the equivalent of a regional government in other countries, she has extraordinary international profile for someone in that role. So someone who is recognised throughout the world and has raised the profile of Scotland's devolved government in that sense too. So that's another aspect of the legacy.
Okay, and obviously, as the leader of the SNP, she is she's been very clear that she is keen to see a second independence referendum in the relatively near future. What do you think her departure from the top job will mean for the chances of that referendum? Firstly, the chances of it happening, and secondly, if it does happen, what does it mean for the chances of a victory for the Yes campaign?
So we don't know yet what, if any, impact her departure will have on support for independence. She was and remains committed to a referendum on independence. But what transpired last year, towards the end of last year, was that that was not something that she had the power and the capacity to deliver, because Supreme Court made it clear that this had to be with the consent of the UK Parliament, because it was beyond the powers of the Scottish Parliament. So that referendum pathway was blocked anyway. Now, Nicola Sturgeon had said that in the absence of that preferred route, she felt that the next UK general election should be effectively a de facto referendum on independence, and that was what she wanted her party to compete that election on. Now, that was controversial and difficult and filled with practical challenges, and was already going to be the subject of a special conference of the SNP next month. So while she had said that that's what she thought they should do, it was a decision that the party was going to debate and discuss and take next month anyway. And I think what we might see is that, assuming there is a contest for her successor, we might see that be one of the central issues in that leadership election, about the strategy. There will be no difference between the candidates on support and commitment and passion for independence, but we might see some differences about how you get there from here, and what are the strategic options and the pathways that are available, and that leader, the next leader, will want to prioritize and push forward with, in the absence of the best route, that I think all would agree the best route being a referendum that they can control and legislate for within the Scottish Parliament. So if that path, so long as that pathway is blocked, what do you do then? And I think that will be one of the central issues in the leadership campaign.
Okay, and of course, when Nicola Sturgeon got the top job, she had for quite a few years before that been seen as the natural successor to Alex Salmond. There doesn't appear to be an obvious successor this time round, so perhaps you could talk us through some of the potential candidates.
Yes, and it was interesting in her press conference that she acknowledged, in a way, that her own personal profile and the dominance of her leadership position had eclipsed, I think that was the phrase she used, had eclipsed some of the others within her broader team. And I think that's right. So there's the other potential candidates don't have anything like the profile that she had when she was Deputy First Minister. Now, perhaps the exception to that would be her own Deputy First Minister, John Swinney, who's already been leader of the SNP. I have no idea whether he would put himself forward again. But there are others. Kate Forbes, Finance Secretary, prior to going off on maternity leave, is due to return quite soon. There are others within the ministerial team. Angus Robertson, who was formerly leader of the Westminster group of SNP MPs, so reasonably high profile. Again, it's too early to say whether any of these individuals will put themselves forward. One of the striking things that Nicola Sturgeon talked about a lot in her resignation statement was the personal toll that leadership and being First Minister takes, and the commitment that it requires, and the sacrifices that she has had to make in that role, sacrifices on family life and so on. And I'm sure all of these things will be weighing up in the minds of those who are thinking of putting themselves forward for the role.
Okay, and perhaps just finally then on Miss Sturgeon's own future. Obviously, she's still relatively sort of young-ish, and still has the opportunity to continue in public service in some way. So what options are there open to a former First Minister, and how could she potentially continue to contribute if she chose to do that.
So I'm glad you said she was still relatively youngish, because she's exactly the same age as me. She said that she will remain as an MSP for her local constituency area in Glasgow for the rest of this term at least, and then who knows after that. There will be offers. I'm sure there will be offers, and they will reflect her profile and her experience in office and her profile internationally. And there will be some causes that she will want to continue to fight for. She's talked about her commitment to care experienced young people. I'm sure that will continue to be a feature of her work. I don't think there'll be a shortage of offers. I hope she takes some time to have a rest and perhaps a holiday and recharge and think about the future then.